I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Tonya Elizabeth Arrow has worked at a number of high-paced global organizations, most notably both Google and Microsoft. She's currently in Norway, but she has also worked and lived in France and Switzerland, among other places. She really has learned the value of staying flexible and autonomous, being ready for perpetual change, understanding various models of the world and cultures, and really what it takes to lead in a global competitive landscape, which has really kind of led her and her colleagues towards change leadership as a profession and almost a value. And certainly at Google, she had firsthand experience with how to engage and motivate employees and really what it takes to make sure that a company keeps its competitive edge. She learned powers of transparent communication, collaboration, and she and her colleagues as well wanted to give back and share this knowledge throughout the world of business with companies of all types, how to engage people, particularly while going through perpetual change. And I know for sure that Tonya specifically has told me that she believes that everyone deserves to work in a thriving environment. And she's the co-founder, as a result of all this, and the director of Change Corp. And Change Corp's vision is to help transform workplace cultures into spaces where people's hearts are truly in their work, where they can thrive, and to increase the engagement and deliver innovative and tangible results in a very rapid fashion. So she has a great deal of experience in both managing and responding to change. And I think that we'll hear a lot of very interesting results from her tonight. So Tonya, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you go forward.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Seth. And thank you all for joining us tonight. We don't take your time lightly. We appreciate that you have a lot going on in this unprecedented time. And we will make sure to deliver for the next 45 minutes. So let's start. It is interesting to be in a space of helping people and organizations go through change and culture change when no one really knows how the future will look like in 5 or 1 year even. There's a lot of reports, there's a lot of speculations about how everything that's happening now with COVID-19 will affect our lives and also the future of work. And no one really knows. What we do know is how it's impacted our daily working from home, for instance. And I am sure many of you can relate to the picture on the next slide on how it is to have these daily Zoom meetings and if we are prepared or not. So, joke aside, the COVID-19 has made many people unemployed, and fortunately also thousands and thousands of people have lost their lives. And we are in a situation that's very challenging for many, both on a personal level and also businesses. And what we do know is how change methodology can help your organization go through change. So with everything happening, we'll at least take what we do know tonight and give you some insights on how to take your organization and also help your people, your teams through this change. The silver lining of it all is people stepping up and showing empathy and caring for others and really helping other people. So that is the silver lining, and that is a beautiful situation. So with that said, we will now go through what we'll have in the agenda. We'll look at how the phases of change impacts you and your organization. We'll look at how you can take your organization going through change in a good way, and we will develop a roadmap. So we'll look at a roadmap for you and your organization. What we do know is that many people are stressed out. They are in a situation where they're really not coping well. maybe with the situation working at home and also homeschooling and doing all that. We also know that it's been a very stressful situation for many. So there is a challenge in the mental health area. We also know that many organizations, you know, all organizations in the, for instance, travel industry are going through a very rough time, and also other industries that have the need to develop or need to deliver physical products. And we also experience that, you know, going from delivering face-to-face, going then to the online world, there is a shift for us all. So there is 60% of businesses, at least, that say that, you know, they have a decrease in turnover. And many are looking at bankruptcy as well. And then there are the opportunities of how to shift through that change and go well through that change that we'll talk about today. And you have, on the positive side, for those who do actually work well from home, the fact that many are really enjoying working from home, and you have 45% that their work situations will actually change and that they might be more flexible, which is a good thing. So what we'll look at today is a model called CARE. We have taken everything, we're certified change management practitioners, and we've taken our experience and made a model. I would, on that note, also like, because that was one of the questions last time, if there are other models. So I'm gonna just run a model for you. That's ADCAR from ProSci. ProSci is, I would say, the world's leading on certifications in change management. As I said, we have our certifications there. So they give out great both books, but also insights. And this is something that comes out once a year or once every 2 years, that are best practices in change management. So ProSci is one with ADCAR. And then you have also Cotter, who's speaking about the 8 change accelerators. So those are 2 sources to look into, and there's many more sources on change management. And this is a book that is very good, also written by someone that is related to ProSci, and this book as well. So I just wanted to give you that library of change management, if you may, and then we'll jump into what we wanted to do was to create a model that was easy to understand for clients and for organizations going through change, and giving some aspects of what to focus on in each area. So first, there is the catalyst phase. Something is happening, right? For instance, COVID-19. It can also be other events, both internal and external events, that propel the organization into a change state. And what you want to do in this phase is understand what you need to focus on. And I'll give you an example of a client of ours while going through this phase. So what you want to do is to understand what's going on. You want to, there might be people, both in the management, but also employees who need coaching. You might want to do gap analysis, you might want to do leadership diagnostics, you might want to do pulse surveys to find out, you know, how are we doing, what's needed to get through this. And yeah. And what we had here, we had an example where it was a client who had gotten a negative feedback from Great Place to Work, and or, you know, results that they didn't really like. So it was a private organization, and they also saw that there were some issues that they needed to understand better. They didn't really understand where the issues were coming from. And so we did a pulse survey, we also did focus groups with all employees, and we did interviews with selected key employees to figure out what was going on. And with that, because if you take a employee survey, or if you take, for instance, Great Place to Work, that is a great certification program, some of the questions are made in a way that you can't really know what the person is thinking. It can be several ways of interpreting the question, and thus the answer can be, there can be several answers to one question. So if that makes sense. So what we want to do is really to understand what lies behind the answers in the surveys and to get that pulse on the organization. So this is what you want to do when you first go through, when you have discovered that a change has happened and you don't really know what to do. You want to really get to the bottom of all the underlying issues of all the symptoms. And you also want to think about coaching employees. For instance, we had a situation where a public organization had issues in their culture, and they had gotten bad results on their yearly employee study. And we kind of got a text message on Friday asking us if we could come on Monday. And what we then did was actually run a series of coaching sessions with employees in all levels of the organization. First, also because they needed to have someone to talk to about the issues they were going through, and also to guide them through the change curve. When a disruptive thing happens, or when you go through something that is perceived as negative and stressful in an organization, you can have many people stuck in the kind of shock, confusion phase of the change curve, and you want to get them moving along the change curve into exploring and being optimistic and positive about the change. So it's also helping them on going through the change. Then you have the second phase, that is adapting. So we want to adapt to the what's going on, and we want to also make sure to stay competitive or alter our services if we are a public organization. So if the people we are serving have needs that have changed, we need to alter our services. So what we need to do here is go into, we've gathered feedback from the first phase, the catalyst phase. We are looking at the feedback, what does it mean? And we want to maybe look at what our organization is about, what our purpose is about. So we want to maybe do some work on that, and definitely work on our comm strategy for moving forward so that everyone knows what's going on. So here it's about helping the leaders, and we had back to the example with the public organization, coaching the leaders, giving workshops that could help them look at the culture, what is it that we want to accomplish here, what's the purpose of our work, and then redefining that. So redefining the vision, for instance, having a workshop with all employees or the people that wanted to get involved, have a workshop on what kind of vision do we want to have in this organization? What is it that we would like to see? So that's something you would like to do here. Then we have the third phase, which is the recover phase. So I would like to not say moving back to the new normal, but moving forward. You want to do changes, you want to change the things you've been doing, because there has been a big change, and you need to adapt to the situation. So recovering from that. And for instance, one thing on in this phase is to do a behaviors workshop. So for instance, if you look 18 months forward ahead, then how do we want to, how do we want it to be at work? What do we want to see? What do we want to hear, feel? What kind of behavior do we want to see in the workplace? That is a great way of re-engaging and motivating the employees to go through the change, to become change ambassadors, and to really get aligned with what we're trying to accomplish. And then you have the what to focus on. So again, the pulse survey that you did in the first phase, you want to redo. You want to see and measure, and this is what GTM Hub is outstanding on as well, to measure. How can you measure what you're doing, right? So OKRs. You want to measure how you've done since you were in the catalyst phase. And I have to say, one of the amazing things we've discovered going through this crisis and last months were the letter from, I don't know if you read it, the letter from Brian Chesky, his co-founder in Airbnb. And they had to let people go, quite a lot of people. And he wrote a letter to the employees, and also it was included both to the employees that were staying, but also to the employees that they had to let go. And the empathy and the compassion and the love he shared in that letter with the employees. I mean, you can say that, Airbnb have had a lot of means, so, they can do things like making sure that everyone keeps their laptop moving forward, paying for their insurance, and going out of their way to pay salary longer, etc. And what was most touching with that letter, and how he has also tweeted about, if you need great employees, please contact me, because we unfortunately have to let some of our team members go. You could really feel that they were family to him. They were really important, and he really did not want to let them go. And the transparency about why they had to do it, and the honesty and the humility and compassion he shared in that letter, and really painting the path forward, saying that if you were staying, then you would be invited by your manager to have a meeting, and if you had to go, unfortunately, then you would also be invited to a meeting, and you would be taken care of. And that's really a best practice in how to do a humane restructuring. When you read that letter, you really feel that the only reason why he's letting people go is because of the changes in their industry. You also, in the recover phase, want to develop people. So you want to develop the team leaders. For instance, we had an organization where they were growing like crazy, and they needed team leaders to help the team members, both with, personal development talks and really to support team members. So they were creating teams and team leaders. And then you had people going from being a subject matter person to being a team leader. And that was painful. And they had to go from 100% on subject matter to 30% team leader, and then 70% subject matter. And several of them had, it was a change in behavior. It was a change of, how their work was structured in a week. So it was a big change, and that's also something you want to help with, both developing them in having trainings, and also giving them support through coaching. Because we know, if you are to take a very different example, if you are to increase how much you work out in a week from 3 times to 5 times, there is a change in behavior, and it's a hard, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to change the behavior like that. And this is what it is for those team leaders and for the people going through change as well. It's tough to change any behavior, and we need accountability partners. We need people who can help us get through that change. So that's really what you want to do in the last 2 phases of change, both the recovery phase and the emerge phase that we'll talk about coming next. It's making that change sustainable in a good way for your people. And then you have the emerge phase, which is about making the change stick. And it's also about looking at what you can improve moving forward. So here you want to really, consolidate the high-performing teams. You want to make them work in a good way. You want to review what you've been doing. You want to measure, as always. So retake any analysis, surveys, planning new KPIs or OKRs, doing a pulse survey again. So measuring, right? Have we moved ourselves from where we were? And you want to see positive results here. Also developing the leaders and really help the teams. Maybe there's also new teams to work together and to create great results. And here I have, we're using Wiley and 5 behaviors, and there's a book by Patrick Lencioni called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it's really good on understanding what makes a high-performing team, and also what you can be doing in this change to create those high-performing teams. And then consolidating moving forward. So summing up, this is the whole model, and we'll send this to you, so don't worry, you don't need to write it down. It's just to showcase the different activities you want to be focusing on going through these phases. So in the catalyst phase, what are you going to focus on? What you need to find out? What's the pain points? What's the underlying issues underneath the symptoms? Then innovate to stay ahead, and what is it that you need to change? Also getting the insights from the catalyst phase. So really digging in the data to find the real problems. I have my colleague and partner, Carly Olsen Havland, she says the issue an organization comes with is really the real issue. So there's always more to find out. Then moving forward to a new normal, what does it look like? What do we need to have changed, and how can we measure what we're doing? And then going live, measuring again and improving, making the change stick and sustainable. And so that was what I had. Please feel free to email us, and please feel free to reach out to Seth and his colleagues as well after. And feel free to ask any questions now. I would love, be happy to answer them. And I'll give the voice back to Seth.
Thanks, Tonja. That was great.